Hey everybody, C-Note here, and I wanted to show you how I'm updating some of my thumbnails for YouTube to make them a little bit more dynamic by taking some photos that are on Unsplash and cutting out the subject and just giving them a little bit more dimension with these borders that you see around. So the bulk of this video is about the cutout feature in Photoshop, which is incredible. I used to spend hours having to cut out a subject, and now you could do it in seconds. So I will show you how to do that and kind of talk through my design process a little bit. I'm going to keep this short so that if you have questions, you can watch the video again, or you can hit me up in the comments and let me know what your thought process is. So I will, the main idea I want to update for this video is to be able to allow for, where did my layers go? There it is. Okay. I'm going to allow for this subject in the background. You can see this guy here. That's, let me pull that away. He's just kind of like sitting on the rock being super dramatic, and we're going to make him pop above the surrounding border. So I created this border pretty quickly using a couple of shape layers, and if you want a separate video on that, I can do all of that and some stroke effects on there to just kind of get that border. I made that kind of manually, but you know, you can do it however you need to. So I'm going to duplicate this guy, this dramatic guy, and I did that with Command J or Control J. I'm using a PC, so anytime I say Control, just assume that I mean Command, so I don't have to say them both because that's just silly. So I'm going to move him to the top, and I moved him to the top by hitting Control Shift right bracket. That's kind of like the quick shortcut. And what I'm going to do now is I like to hit, I like to use the keyboard for selecting tools. You see the tools on the left side here. If you hit B, it's B for brush, W for wand, for magic wand. There's the G for the gradient or bucket tool, H for the healing brush. I think that's H. Nope, that's for the hand tool. Actually, that makes more sense. M for marquee, and V for the move tool. So those are just a couple quick keyboard shortcuts. So I'm going to use W for the magic wand. And you'll see on the top right here, depending on the size of your screen, it's going to be on the right of this menu up here. It'll say select subject. You could do select and mask and do that whole selecting situation if you have a more complex image. But select and subject is going to do the job most of the time. If you have a specific subject on here that's just like one person and there's not a lot of obstruction. This one has a little bit of obstruction, but we're not going to worry about that too much for the sake of this video. I'll do some cleanup later. So he's also got glasses, and that makes things difficult also. But if you're making something that's just like a YouTube thumbnail, I wouldn't worry about that too much. So we're going to pull up our layers again. And now that he's selected, I'm going to go down here to the mask tool. So add layer mask. And I'm going to click that, and you can see that he's pretty easily cut out. That's really great. So now I'm just going to hit Command left bracket to start going down my layers and get to the part where I want to, which is going to be like just below where the text is. This is where like the group 6. I'm not great at naming my layers, so don't follow what I do. When it comes to naming layers, if you're working with clients and stuff, you should definitely name your layers. But in my case, I'm not worrying about it too much. So what I'm going to do here is I'll just kind of take a look at that. So he's going to pop out a little bit more. I'm actually going to pull him above the, I'm going to actually put these, there we go. I'm going to move the border layers below him. There we go. And do that. So he's kind of sticking out above the border right now. You can see there's like some screw ups down here. We'll deal with that in a second. So what we're going to do here now is I want to fix some of this text, and I'm going to kind of just move things around. I'm probably going to end up making this thumbnail a little bit shorter in terms of the title, but for the sake of this video, I'm just going to move things over so it's like left justified and going to be at least a little bit easier to read around this person. In a lot of cases, if there's an opportunity to stick text behind a person, kind of like this, but not as obstructed, I will do that. It'll help with the sense of depth. And so I'm going to actually select the text, and I'm going to make the text a little bit smaller. to help with the visibility a little bit. So actually I'm going to just stick there so that the T and the G are sticking out there. And then I'm just going to move from burnout and probably make that a little bit smaller. That way we can make it kind of like a stacked, and you know, from burnout is not really the biggest thing. Being an INTP is the biggest thing that I'm worried about, being seen. So I'm not going to worry about that. And then I'm going to take recovering and make that smaller as well. All right, line that up. I use the kind of built-in guides and stuff like that, or you can select them all and kind of just like evenly space them out. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I'll just kind of play it by, use my eye, and that's totally fine. So does this need to get a little bit larger? We could probably get away with it and just move it to the left a little more. It's too much, so it's not going to work. All right, so we'll do that. I'm going to move my logo to the left, so it's like centered to the text itself. And we're going to solve our little problem here with this guy. So since it's, I don't need every element to pop over the border. Sometimes if there's something like this where it's like really janky down here, I'm just going to use the brush and then like unmask that and let that fall behind the border. Because if it goes behind and you've got the other leg that goes over the border, it creates even more dynamism. So I think that just kind of makes it more interesting and kind of hides your mistakes. That's one of the best things I like to do, is just hide my mistakes. So, I mean, they're not mistakes if you choose to hide them, I guess. That's the way I look at it. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to move this over so I can see him. I don't want him to be as like dark and purple, so I'm just going to like fix some of my layers here because it's a little too dark. There we go. Okay, I'll bring some of these other ones back. And yeah, that's probably fine. I'm going to tinker with this and make it like quote unquote perfect. But the idea is that it's, you know, you get a more dynamic image. It'll pop on the feed a little bit more, especially with like the text behind the person. You can play with like putting a shadow here if you want, but it's kind of too much. I don't think you need to do that. It's a graphic treatment. You don't need to make it realistic and all of that stuff. So you just make sure your text pops, your image pops a little bit. And I'm just seeing one little thing I want to fix, and I'm going to do that real quick. There we go. It's when you've been a designer for 20 years, you notice like when something's like 1 pixel line off and it's obnoxious, but you go in and you fix it. So that's basically it. So to kind of just run through this again real quick, you select your layer that you want. You hit the W key for your magic wand tool. You select the subject. Then you go down in your layers panel and you hit add layer mask. After that's selected, you sort of move it into place below or above your border that you want to use, or whatever the dynamic imagery is. And really the core principle here is that if you have text, or you have a border, or you have some way to make the image look more dynamic, pop in front of something or behind something, that's going to create a little bit more visual interest for you and your audience to have and to work with. And this like magic cutout situation is just absolutely incredible. I can't believe this is a thing. This is absolute magic. So take advantage of it. Use it if you're using Photoshop. If you're not using Photoshop yet, I will put a link below so you can go sign up for the Creative Cloud. And I know there's like cheaper versions where you can just get Photoshop. This makes things super fast and easy. So keep this video bookmarked if you need to go through it again. And if you have any questions about specifics or other video requests when it comes to like Photoshop and design and any other stuff that I do when it comes to digital production, go ahead and drop those in the comments below. That's been it. I've been C-Note. You can go follow me at Let's Go C-Note on all the social channels, and check out my website at cnote.media. With all that said, I appreciate you guys. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll catch you next time. See ya.